You're toast!
Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to go over Xiangling support / sub DPS. Xiangling is a high damage sub DPS that is integrated into many of the most meta team comps like the national team and Childe team. She is easily obtained after completing 4-3 of the Spiral Abyss and can be used in your party all the way up to floor 12. With that out of the way, let's get into my Xiangling that I'm going to be used for the guide. My Xiangling is 80 out of 90. She has a 53% crit rate, 90% crit damage, 190 energy recharge, and 46% pyro damage. She has an elemental master of 175, using the prototype Star Glitter. She has a 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate set. I have C6 on my Xiangling, and her talents are levels 6, 11, and 12. First, let's get into Xiangling's talents. Her normal attack Dofu is just the regular normal attack and a 5-hit strike. Her elemental skill is pretty simple. Xiangling drops a bear in front of her and will deal continuous AoE pyro damage. This skill falls into the pet skill category. The thing is, Goblet is pretty stationary and can't move around, therefore enemies can easily walk out of its range and normally do. Her elemental skill does not generate a large amount of pyro particles, as well as her ultimate cost being a grand total of 80. This will result in most teams requiring to use another pyro character on their team just to help generate Xiangling particles. We'll talk about team partners later, but for now, let's get into Xiangling's ultimate ability. Xiangling's ultimate ability is why she is widely used in a variety of team comps. Xiangling's Pyronado has her charge up and then swing a pyro polearm around her, dealing continuous pyro damage. This effect lasts for 10 seconds and has an energy cost of 80 energy. And finally has a cooldown for 20 seconds. Now, when Xiangling was the only viable polearm character in the game, people used to run Crescent Pike Xiangling or a physical Xiangling, but now since the game's release, the community has found out that Pyro Xiangling provides so much more upsides than the DPS Xiangling. Xiangling's scalings are incredible. Her Pyronado scaling is 224%, and this is at level 12, which is level 9, and she gets an extra +3 from her Constellations. But even then, Xiangling's scaling on her Pyronado is great at all levels. I grabbed a chart off the Genshin wiki just to show you guys Xiangling's Pyronado scalings at all levels. Next, Xiangling's ultimate is an ability that snapshots. Currently I don't have a guide on what snapshotting is, but to give you guys a quick rundown, snapshotting is, it will factor in all the buffs given to Xiangling during her ultimate, even when those buffs expire. As a demonstration, I'm going to use Bennett and Xiangling for this example. So, after I pop my Xiangling ult, we can see that the normal damage is 64-36, but after I pop Bennett's ult, the damage doesn't change. This is snapshotting. The game takes Xiangling's current attack and applies it through the duration of her burst. The reverse is also true. Let's say we start off with our Bennett burst and then pop our Xiangling burst. So if we wait a little while, we can even hold out our Bennett burst for the duration of our Xiangling burst. As you can see, the current damage before the pyro resistance was applied was the same as in our Bennett burst damage. Xiangling's burst also has no internal cooldown, so you can always apply reactions every time you apply pyro damage. For example, let's say you have Childe, who can apply hydros extremely fast to opponents. I pop my Xiangling burst, and then I go into my Childe melee stance. I keep applying the enemy with Hydro, and my Xiangling burst will vape every enemy afflicted by Hydro. Finally, if you're wondering what the scalings are for the 1-hit, 2-hit, and 3-hit swing, it's basically when Xiangling charges up her ultimate and then goes into the Pyronado damage. For the next passive talent, we have an ability called Crossfire, and this basically just increases the flame range of Goblet by 20%. Next, we have Beware It's Super Hot. When Goblet attacks, effect ends, so when Goblet leaves the battlefield, he'll leave behind a chili pepper he was eating. Picking up this chili pepper increases attack by 10% for 10 seconds. This chili pepper's buffs are pretty negligible at best, but it's just another reason to run Support Xiangling. Finally, we have Chef de Cuisine. When Xiangling cooks an attack boosting dish perfectly, she has a 12% to receive double the product. For talent priority, obviously, Pyronado is first. It's the core of your kit. Next would be the Goba, and then last would be your normal attack. If you're short on Mora, or rather use your resin in upgrading different artifacts or fighting bosses, not leveling your Goba or your normal attack is completely understandable, and Goba's range is so limited that it won't make a big DPS difference at all. Next, let's get into Xiangling's weapons. Xiangling's best in slot weapon by far is the Catch. Its passive is just crazy good. It increases elemental burst damage by 32% and elemental burst crit rate by 12%. It also has an energy recharge substat, which is amazing for Xiangling if you're running her on the Emblem of Severed Fate set. The Emblem of Severed Fate set gives you bonus damage based on energy recharge. The next best weapons are entirely up to preference. Probably next in slot is the Dragon's Bane. It increases damage on opponents affected by Pyro or Hydro. This is great for Xiangling if you're vaporizing with Childe or Xingqiu, and you also get the added bonus of an Elemental Mastery substat, which will increase your vaporized damage even more. If you rather have your ultimate up more than dealing damage, I would opt for an energy recharge spear like Favonius Lance, or while I'm running the prototype Circlet. Favonius Lance would give you more energy overall, but I'm running the prototype Circlet on Xiangling because my Zhongli is using my Favonius Lance. Also, every once in a millennia, I will throw Goba down and then normal attack and charge attack while my other characters' cooldowns are still charging up. Next, let's get into Xiangling's best artifact sets. With the release of Inazuma came forth new artifact sets, and with that came the Emblem of Severed Fate set. The Emblem of Severed Fate set are for characters who primarily deal damage based on their ultimate abilities. The 2-piece set gives you a 20% energy recharge bonus, and the 4-piece set increases elemental burst damage by 25% of energy recharge, and a maximum of 75% bonus damage can be obtained this way. To get the maximum bonus of 75% damage is the same thing as getting 300% energy recharge. Getting this much energy recharge, in my opinion, is a bit excessive. I would recommend getting around the 200 to 250 range for energy recharge, and then start adding a little bit more crit rate and crit damage into your builds. Currently my Xiangling is on the low end with 190. I'd like to push that up to 200, maybe 230 even. But for now, she's still doing quite a lot of damage for me, and it's been working out quite fine. This set is extremely good for Xiangling if you're running an energy recharge weapon, like the previously spoken about Catch, and you get a 20% bonus energy recharge from the 2-piece set. You already have 160 energy recharge, and now rolling energy recharge on your substats does not only increase the pace at which you get your ultimate back, but also increases your ultimate's damage. Now of course there are other sets you can build on Xiangling, like a 4-piece Crimson Witch set. It will deal more damage if you're overloading or vaporizing, like if you have a Childe Ball team. It could potentially out DPS an Emblem of Severed Fate set. Running a 4 Noble set will also prove to be good with Xiangling, as it increases her burst damage, as well giving an attack buff to other characters around you. I favor the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate set over all other sets is because it gives you more burst damage than the Noble set, and also, even though in some cases it may get out DPS'd by the Crimson Witch set, the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate set allows you to build ER and turn that energy recharge into burst damage. The only possible downside I can see is the domain is located in Inazuma, so it is going to be harder for new players to get to Inazuma, but I think by the time you are grinding artifacts, you should already be in Inazuma by now. Also, grinding Pyro artifacts in the Pyro domain is extremely challenging. All the characters in the Pyro domain are immune to Pyro damage, so you already have to have a Hydro built character to grind artifacts in the Pyro domain. As for the Inazuman domain, it is Electro mobs, so using Pyro in those domains are actually pretty favored. Next, let's get into what stats you should prioritize when building Xiangling. Artifact stats to prioritize: energy recharge, crit rate, and crit damage. Elemental Mastery is also favored, but just not as much as the other three. Only use Elemental Mastery if you're using Vaporize or Melt comps. Another question people are wondering about Xiangling: if they're running the Emblem of Severed Fate set, how much energy recharge is a good amount of energy recharge? So if you guys are running the catch and you're running the Emblem of Severed Fate set, you already have a 160 energy recharge, and that's usually good enough if you are playing Xiangling optimally, like you're using your Pyro carries and giving Xiangling all the Pyro particles, but a more casual build is around 200 energy recharge. I encourage you guys to play around with the energy recharge numbers and stats just to see how much energy recharge would you like on your Xiangling. When deciding stats on what to build for your Sands, as a main stat, run attack percent on your Sands. Even if you are building an Emblem of Severed Fate set, running an ER Sands does not provide as much damage as an attack percent Sands. Only 25% of your energy recharge is being converted into bonus burst damage. Running an Elemental Mastery Sands could also be quite useful for certain team comps if you're running a Vaporize, a Melt team comp that heavily relies on reactions. Just know that an Elemental Mastery Sands could be harder to come by. The damage difference between Elemental Mastery and attack percent is quite minimal, so I just stuck with an attack percent Sands because I got better substat rolls. For your Goblet, you're going to want to build Pyro damage, and for your Circlet, you're going to want to build crit damage or crit rate depending on your ratio. Remember to keep a 1:2 ratio for crit rate, and keep in mind that you do get an extra 12% burst crit rate if you use the catch, so factor that in mind. Next, let's get on to Xiangling's Constellations. Xiangling C1 is whenever an opponent is hit by Goba's attacks, they have their Pyro resistance decrease by 15% for 6 seconds. Her C2, after you finish Xiangling's full 5-hit strike, will apply an implode status to the character, and after 2 seconds, the character will explode, dealing 75% of Xiangling's attack as AoE Pyro damage. Xiangling C4 increases Pyronado's duration by 40%. Finally, for Xiangling C6, for the entire duration of Pyronado, all party members receive a 15% Pyro damage bonus. Now that I've read over Xiangling's Constellations, I bet a lot of you are wondering, how good is she with a Pyro DPS as a support? For every constellation Xiangling gets, her viability as a Pyro support exponentially increases. Her C1 decreases opponent's Pyro res. Her C4 increases her core kit, her Pyronado's duration, for an extra 40%. And her C6, for the entire duration of Pyronado, your entire party essentially gets a free 2-piece Crimson Witch buff. The only bad thing I'd say about Xiangling's Constellations are her C2 is pretty bad. It's only useful for physical Xiangling because you usually never are autoing long enough to apply the implode status on enemies. I'd say Xiangling is a really great character to roll for Constellations. At her C3, you increase your Pyronado by 3 levels, and her C4 increases the Pyro Nado's duration. I'd say C4 is a good stopping point, but going all the way to C6 is pretty useful as well if you want to use her as a Pyro support. With that out of the way, let's get into team guides for Xiangling. Two characters you most likely see on a Xiangling team are Xingqiu or Childe. These two characters excel at applying Hydro extremely fast to enemies, just so Xiangling can vaporize all the enemies due to her ultimate ability having no internal cooldowns. Barbara can also be used with Xiangling because she excels at applying Hydro extremely fast to enemies around her. The one reason why people don't use Barbara with Xiangling is because Barbara does not deal any real damage. She only heals your team, and usually people are using a different healer other than Barbara. Xiangling is also great with many Pyro DPS comps. Her kit allows you to reduce the resistance of many opponents, while also increasing your Pyro DPS for your characters. Diluc is usually the main Pyro DPS paired with Xiangling. Because of Diluc's playstyle, Diluc wants to get up and close to the enemies to deal his massive Pyro burst damage, which in then turn, Xiangling can also get close to enemies and deal damage with her Pyro Nado. When building around Xiangling, it's also ideal to have another Pyro support or DPS to help generate particles for Xiangling's high burst ultimate cost. This in turn gives you the Pyro Resonance bonus, which increases your attack by 10%. That being said, Bennett is another character usually being paired with Xiangling just to take advantage of the Pyro Resonance bonus and to easily generate Pyro particles for Xiangling. When building your own team for Xiangling, keep in mind that Xiangling's playstyle is to spam her ultimate and then take her off the field to auto attack with a separate DPS character or carry. Now let's talk about some example teams for Xiangling. The first team I have for you guys is a Childe Xiangling team. I have Childe to quickly apply the Hydro status to many opponents. I use Xiangling for a Pyro Nado to quickly vape every single Hydro applied opponent. I have Bennett for heals and to give Xiangling Pyro particles. And I have Ball to add a splash of Electro to my Childe team comp. I also have her in the party to gain energy particles and use her as a sub DPS when Childe is off field. The last character can entirely be a flex character. You don't have to use the Raiden Shogun. You can also use Sucrose to swirl Xiangling's and Bennett's Pyro damage to take full effect of the Viridescent set. The next team comp we got is a variant on the national team comp. Currently, I'm using Xingqiu for Vaporize, Bennett for heals and Pyro particles, and you can flex Ball. I just like using Ball because she gives you a lot of energy and adds Electro to the team comp. Some other characters you can use are Sucrose because she can take advantage of the busted Viridescent set, or you can use Chongyun to add some Cryo to your team. So, I was thinking about how I should do a burst showcase for Xiangling because her Pyro Nado isn't very bursty, it's more of consistent Pyro damage with other team members, so I thought the Spiral Abyss would be a good place to showcase my Xiangling. I'm just going to quickly go over what my Xiangling build and other team members and then get into the Spiral Abyss.
It's my lucky day!
Nice and spicy! Ha! Illusion shot!
No time to lose. How's this? Yeah! Brace yourself! This is gonna hurt! My blade!
Teamwork is dreamwork! Inazuma shines eternal!
The fairy?
Shine down! Out of the frying pan, it's... Let's light it up! I'm going in! Illusion shot!
Amateur mistake this time.
You're toast! Goba, get them! Now you shall perish!
You can run, but you can't hide.
Teamwork is dreamwork! Torn to oblivion!
Can't run from death.
Out of the frying pan! Out of the frying pan, into the fire! I'm going in!
Brace yourself. This is gonna hurt. Bring it on.
Let's light it up! Nice and spicy! Shine down! Boba, get them! Teamwork is dreamwork! Torn to oblivion! You're toast! Out of the frying pan, into the fire!
No time to lose. Shouldn't let your guard down. Amateur mistake.
Everybody stand back! Now you shall perish! There is no escape! Boba, get them! That's gonna hurt in the morning! Let's light it up! Teamwork is dreamwork! Eat this! Nice and spicy! Illusion shattered! Shine down!
Brace yourself. This is gonna hurt.
Everybody stand back! Inazuma shines eternal! There is no escape! Eat this! Nice and spicy!
Tidal wave. Shouldn't let your guard down.
Going in! Now you shall perish! Illusion shattered! Race you! Goba!
You're pretty good.
Everybody stand back! Let's light it up!
Brace yourself. This is gonna hurt.
Torn to oblivion! Teamwork is dreamwork! Out of the frying pan, into the fire! You're toast!
And that about wraps it up for this video. Recently, I've been spamming Xiangling Childe in the current Spiral Abyss, and that's been working out great. I haven't really been seeing any Pyronado energy problems because I've been using my Bennett with my Xiangling, and that's also proven great. Bennett is really great at generating Pyro particles for Xiangling. I hope I made this guide as detailed and easy to understand as possible. Xiangling has a lot of internal mechanics that most players don't know about, and even abusing a few of these mechanics can push your damage to the next level. Again, Xiangling is also incredibly easy to get. You receive her by completing Chamber 3, Floor 3 of the Spiral Abyss. And I'm probably going to make a snapshotting guide just to refer back to in case I mention snapshotting in another character, so expect to see that soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.